The path next to the forest. My name is Fernando, and that happened when I was 13 years old. At that moment, what I wanted most was my bicycle, because with it I could go everywhere, even go shopping with some friends. I remember very well that day when I left school very late because of the sports training I had. And then I saw that it was getting dark, and I started riding my bicycle very quickly as usual. Halfway down the road, I felt tired and had a good reason to be exhausted, so I slowed down a little when suddenly I saw a boy about my age with a bicycle coming toward me. And then he parked about 30 meters away. Resting on the same path I was going, I slowed down a little, but I was a little surprised since the place felt very lonely at that time, when I heard his voice telling me, "Are you from around here?" And then I stopped and kindly answered that yes, he didn't have to be afraid since he was my age. And what's more, I thought that he might have been lost and I could help him. I looked at him intently and asked him if he was lost and that I would be happy to help him. Help? Then he smiled and told me, "No, nothing like that. I'm from the area and I was just passing by here." He introduced himself and told me that his name was Francis. We talked some more and he asked me if I wanted to walk around there. I told him yes. Well, we talked, we laughed, we really had a good time. I felt very good to have another friend. When suddenly we stopped, and about 20 meters away, we saw a very strange man walking along the same route towards my house. He stared at me with a creepy look, like he wanted to tell me something. He had a black cap. He was carrying a white bag. He looked like an old man with a mustache and beard. However, I noticed that he was younger than he looked. He hung his bag on his shoulder and just left. Then after a while, I told Francis that it was time to go, and then we would see each other again. And he asked me which way I would take to go home, and I told him I'm going down the road next to the forest, and he told me that because I was a good friend, it would be better for me to go along the rock route. That's what they called that route, since it had a lot of rocks around. I didn't like the idea very much, but in a short time, he made me trust him, and so I took the rock route. When I got home, my family was waiting for me for dinner. My grandfather approached me and told me to try to arrive earlier next time, since it can be very dangerous, because we don't want the same thing to happen to you that happened to that young man 2 years ago. Years, but fortunately they already published the image of the murderer. And it will not take long to capture him. I told him, "What are you talking about, grandfather?" And he answered me, "Here's the newspaper." I immediately saw the image of the suspected murderer, and I was perplexed and with my mouth open to know that it was the same bearded man that we saw passing by recently. And I also saw the photo of his victim, and I didn't. I couldn't believe it because it was the new friend named Francis that I met a few hours ago. It couldn't be. My body paralyzed, and I felt something cold run through my entire body, knowing that the person I was playing with was just a soul that saved me from a horrible tragedy if I had taken the decision to pass along the path next to the forest.